Hello, shamanettes, and welcome to the Beauty Shaman. So every season I get together with the wonderful Andrea Flommer from Shopping for the Real You, and we talk about trends and how you as a mature woman can actually wear these things. So thank you so much, Andrea, for joining me here.
It's always fun. I'm really enjoying it.
So for those of you who don't know Andrea, you go to the website Shopping for the Real You, where she has an incredible blog as well as courses, which you've just launched, which is fantastic. I'm excited about that for you. So you are an expert. You are a personal stylist. I love your taste. I love how you explain things. I think you're just one of the best people to help older women find their style for their particular body shape. So today we're going to talk about 2023 fall, and we're going to go through the different styles and the different trends. We've got, I think, 5 or 6 different trends, how to put them together. In the end, we'll talk about how to put everything together. So watch till the end, very important, in order to get the full gist of how you can apply these things to your wardrobe. All right. So Andrea, what is our theme? What is the fall's theme?
Our fall theme, I'd say there's always a couple of different directions that people go because they want to cover all their bases. But in general, we're looking more toward a more classic conservative look.
Right.
And it's typical in the fall because you're cold and you just want to cover yourself up. And you get there's a little bit of bulk coming in. We'll talk about that.
Yes.
You want to
Yes.
get more warmed up. So it's pretty simple. It's more classic. It's not too flashy, but it's got a lot of taste and style.
And I love the Chanel 1950s retro thing that's come in. I just love 40s and 50s. I love that style for women. I think it's super flattering. So the fact that this is kind of with the Mary Jane shoes, which we'll get to because we're going to talk about shoes for those shoe lovers out there. I happen to be a shoe lover. I love that. So there's certain aspects that each one of us can pull from this, in particular, the classic style, and to keep the classic style so it doesn't get boring. Like, I think that's part of my, sometimes it can look like, okay, you're a 50s housewife, right? So it's how we do all this. All right. So let's start. And you're great at this, at explaining it. So let's start with, to me, the most interesting thing of the season. And we're going to embed this in every single trend. And that is color. There's some crazy, like, not so fall colors that are in. So can you explain this?
Yeah, I think that's the big surprise this year. I mean, usually when we think of fall, everybody kind of gets dour and they're going to wear their neutrals and their darks. And that's certainly a continuation. That's part of the classic theme. But what we're seeing is some very interesting colors for the cold weather. And the first one is this incredible, brilliant red, which I know
Yes.
you could really
Oh,
relate to.
I look great in that red.
Yes.
It can be hard for a lot of people to wear, but personally speaking, it's great. Yeah.
Well, it depends on the shade. The particular shade that they're showing is pretty saturated.
Yeah.
And unless your skin is very bright or there's a lot of contrast in your coloring, like you have pale skin or very dark skin and dark hair, then this bright, intense red won't work for you. But if you do have that coloring, it's just spectacular. And it's a great way to show up. And I think it just brings a little more energy and power to the cold internal seasons. And I think that's why people are attracted to it. So I think it's going to be fun. And you're seeing it everything from coats and dresses and shoes, all over the place, shoes. So yeah, you could definitely do this brilliant red.
Yeah. Little happy dance. But there's some other colors that people would be super excited about, like lilac and yellow and sage
Yeah.
green. Navy's a big thing, and navy's kind of common. So that doesn't shock me as much. But the lilac and yellow is like kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, that one I think was a big shocker for everyone. You think of lilac as springtime and summer and lightness, but and then here again, it's a very interesting thing. My my late my husband's aunt, who was an artist, she said everybody can wear lilac, and I thought I don't think so, but in fact, there's something about it that makes everybody look a little bit fresh. But if you have that dark coloring, lilac it just pops.
Yeah.
The contrast between that, it's sort of it's gentle, but there's some gentle power to it.
Yeah.
And so it works for a lot of different types. I mean, really specifically, it's for the people who have a lot of contrast or who are very delicate, who have the cooler based, bluer tone coloring. It's a little challenging for those of us who are yellow toned,
Yes.
but if you like it, I'd say go with my husband's aunt's recommendation because personally, I have lilac envy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little hard to
And the
wear. I
sage, okay,
know.
so sage, I'm
Yes.
wearing my sage today. Sage is a color that will definitely work if you have warmer coloring like I do, but it can also work for some of the people who have that gentle summer subtle blended coloring. In other words, if you could be cooler toned, but everything is sort of evened out and not high contrast. So sage might work for you too. But primarily it's a quiet color, but it's got a quiet dignity to it, you might say.
Right.
And I think you could wear sage. I think this is the interesting thing about sage and lilac. I think a lot of people can wear this. It's worth trying. The red is kind of limited, but these two colors are kind of give it a try.
Good. I agree with you. I think it's good to go into a store, hold it up, see how things kind of work on your skin.
Right.
Because I think women can wear more colors than they give themselves permission to, for the most part. I think we tend to put ourselves in a box. And, I'm all about getting out of the box. So, all right. So let's talk about the first trend, which, well, not first, but I guess second, but in particular to style, is jackets and cardigans. So these are we're seeing a lot of cropped, we're seeing a lot of oversized. So let's get into that. Let's get into jackets and cardigans and the trend with that.
Okay, so that cropped trend, it's that's part of the classic thing that I was talking about. It's a lot like the Chanel type little jackets that tend to be cropped, which is a kind of anything that's sort of cropped has a little bit of playfulness or youthfulness to it, or even a little high spiritedness to it. If you have any drama or you're large, those crop jackets may not work so well for you.
Mhm.
But unless you get them wide enough and straight.
Right.
Um, but they have a little playfulness to them, and you have to look carefully at the details because some of them have big round buttons, some have smaller round buttons. They often have little pockets just about the waistline. So if you're large in the waistline, you don't really want to call attention right there. It has to really end a little before below the waist. And you'll see some of them that are below the waist. And along with those, you're going to see cardigans are back. They were wearing them a couple of years ago as kind of a bombshell sweater where you unbuttoned it quite a bit and then wore it tucked in. Now we're seeing it sort of like the granny style, just worn as a simple cardigan, and they're beautiful. I have one that I bought, I think at Ross for less, that I've had for 20 years.
Wow.
And it's a green, it's a gorgeous green. And I love it and I wear it. And now it's back in style. Really, a simple, especially cashmere or a nice wool cardigan will last you forever. And it's very on trend right now. You wear them with simple pants. You can wear them with wide leg pants, which would be a very flattering look. Um, but again, the cropped look, you have to tread lightly. If you have a large bust,
Mm.
the crop look is not going to be so good for you, um, but unless it has details below it that like those pockets or something. Maybe sometimes they have fringe on the bottom of the hem of it, but the and if it buttons up tight, that and you have a large bust, it may not work. If you wear it unbuttoned with a simple tee underneath it or simple silk blouse underneath it, then and it hangs straight, then that will de-emphasize the size of your bust. But again, you always have to try it on. I wanted to mention one thing. You're talking about color. Put it up to your face, but try to get near a window with natural light
Mm.
because the lights that are in the department store will change the way the color looks on you a little. Anyway, but
Yes.
yes, so even for these crop tops, jackets, think in terms of proportion. You don't want to look top heavy. You don't want to look middle heavy or bottom heavy. You want to have something that looks like it flows and makes a nice, sensible proportion for your body. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on.
with the wider, like many of us have kind of a belly and a wider midsection as we get older. So with these crop tops, is that something we need to go slightly longer? Like, because you talked about bust, but I'm wondering about a thicker midsection.
Yes, exactly. So if you're, you can get these Chanel type jackets that are a little longer, that are just about end at the top of the hip. And if you have some tummy, if you're carrying some largeness around the tummy, just go to the end point that goes right to the top of the hip. That's still a very on-trend look. It's still very classic. It's very pretty. It's got a feminine quality to it because it's not, structured with big shoulders and menswear look. It's a more feminine take on the jacket idea. The only people that won't work for is if you tend to be a pear shape, because if that jacket ends at the top of your hip, then the eye is going to go to right where your bulge is.
Yeah.
So you would want to have something even a little longer. And actually, the more traditional blazer would work better for somebody who is carrying weight in their bottom and their hips. But for the tummy area, just extend that line to the top of the hips and it'll be just lovely.
So let's go into bigger jackets because that's in the oversized jacket.
So they're still, I mean, this is the extremes. So we have one extreme that's going very menswear and staying very large and oversized. Then let me explain about oversized. Oversized anything can either express a dramatic look, or if you're a short person like me and you wear something oversized, then that's got a high spirited quality to it. It's sort of a playful, costumey. I'm making a joke about this look, and that's okay too. So the dramatic or the high spirited type can do it. If you're very natural, it creates a more yang. I say there's yin and yang. It's more yang, more masculine type of look. And so that's the oversized blazer jackets. But now what's interesting is that, everybody was really into moto jackets for a while, especially the leather moto jackets. Those are perennial. They'll be popular forever. But now we're seeing them kind of oversized and a little feminized. So they've got sort of larger, rounder shoulders and pinched in at the waist. Again, that's not going to work for you if you have a large bust, or if you have a large midsection. Although it could make you look like you have a little bit of a mid, you're coming in a little. So yeah, I think the large jackets create a heavier look. And then the other one, you didn't mention it, but I'll bring it up. I maybe you were about to, is the peplum look.
Yes.
The one where the after the seam in the middle by the waistline curves out. And that is a very feminine look. It will make anybody look like they have an hourglass shape. And we're seeing some really pretty things. And that again is like a throwback to the 50s. It's not like you're a 50s housewife. It's more like you're a 50s fashion model is what we're seeing. So they're sort of the more high end, prettier things with the peplum style and in some nice plaids. So keep your eyes out for those. The peplum will work for somebody who is an hourglass, especially for somebody who, like me, is an inverted triangle where you have big shoulders and then no hips, because that gives you some shape. Again, if you're hippie, that's the one to avoid. If you have a little bit of a belly, that's a great one for you because it creates that shape. And if you're straight up and down, it's another one that gives you some more feminine shape. So that's the oversized is more in, sort of menswear jackets. Peplum is more in sort of tailored fashion oriented pieces, more what we think is fashion instead of just utilitarian.
Right. Right. Wonderful. Okay, let's shift into the next section, which is the plain white t-shirt, plain white shirt, not t-shirt, but the plain white shirt, which is it just me or does that strike odd to have plain white after September? Like that, I know that's very traditional not to do that, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah, well, white has become very, very popular this season. Um, and into the winter. So the whole idea, if you don't wear white after Labor Day, has been thrown out the window. But the idea of wearing a crisp white button-down blouse in the winter is completely new. So what they've done, what I've seen, which is really interesting, is that instead of going to the very, very simple kind of Carolina Herrera type, simple, beautiful, structured button-down white blouse, they're adding some really lovely, interesting details. So you started to see it with the puffier sleeves a few years ago, but now you're seeing some with flounces on the end, or the blouse itself has some interest like pleating, or or the neckline is exaggerated, so it looks a little dramatic. And if you can wear that in so many different ways for the fall. You can wear it with a beautiful pair of tailored gabardine slacks. You can wear it, believe it or not, with a bias cut satin skirt, which would be very pretty. You can certainly wear it with a knee length pencil skirt, and definitely with jeans, because jeans, depending on where you are in the world, it's a 4-season garment. But wearing a simple white cotton blouse or one of these new takes on, I mean, I saw one that was just gorgeous. I think it was from the Ravella site, which is they make beautiful silk satin things that aren't terribly expensive. But it was a beautiful button down white, heavy satin blouse with very wide cuffs. I mean, not wide this way, but deep cuffs. And that extra little bit of interest made the fact that it was white and that it was in the winter completely appropriate. So it's something to keep your eye on and just
Yeah.
think about for the winter.
Yeah, I love that. I love plain. It looks so sharp, that crispness. And that's one of the things I love about the white. So we've got like really strong red, lilac yellow, white to pull in, right? So we're starting to pull in a whole outfit we've talked about the jacket. So let's go into, now that we've hit the plain white, let's go into layering. So we've got our colors and our shirts and our jackets. How are we going to layer this in a way that is on trend this year?
Okay, so layering is always popular in the
Right.
winter and in the fall. And because you go outside and it's freezing, you come out inside and it's warm. It's like the reverse of the summer. You have to, in the hottest weather, you have to bring a cardigan with you because you go inside air conditioned rooms. So in the winter, you're cold outside and you're totally wrapped up. You come inside and you want to take off a layer. So generally, we think of layering as like an underlayer, such as a blouse, and then maybe a V-neck pullover over it, or around her neck, and then maybe a blazer over that. And then if you really want to be kind of into this whole textural thing, you could put in a lovely overcoat over it or a trench coat. There's your layering pieces. But there's a new trend that's very interesting. And again, this is a throwback to about the 50s, early 60s. I think of Jackie Kennedy almost when I look at this. It's these heavy scarf shaped pieces that are part of an overcoat or jacket that you wrap around your neck. So in other words, you have the coat itself, but it has a scarf attached that you wrap. And that's one way. The other way is, let's say you don't want to do a lot of layering. If it's really cold, maybe you're just wearing a turtleneck and a pair of slacks and boots and maybe a coat. And we started seeing this a couple of years ago in France. The women were doing this. We used to envy the French women. You've lived in France, so you know what it's like. They know how to tie their scarves so beautifully, right? It's
Yeah.
like a genetic thing for them. But then most recently, they just started wearing these big, healthy, very long, bulky scarves and, woven, wrapped double times around and then hanging way down to their knees or below. And so that's a new fashion. If you're handy with your knitting needles, you can make these beautifully knit scarves. But that's what we're seeing a lot, is these really heavy pieces that wrap around multiple times. And they have a very lovely feeling. Sometimes you're seeing the tonal movement where you have let's say you're wearing a dark charcoal, maybe lighter than that, overcoat, and then you have a fairly lighter shade of gray of this big scarf worn around, and then maybe another shade of gray underneath it or another tan color underneath it. It's a very luxe kind of look. They're calling it. I'm just posting a blog post about it. They're calling this like rich old lady look.
Like that. But we get the idea, right? Rich old lady look. Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you can look rich and not be rich. Like that to me is the great beauty of dressing and makeup is you can kind of transcend all of that if you just have a little know-how, which I absolutely, of course, love, right? So, okay, so layering, I love, of course, big scarf. I'm a huge fan of big scarves, but so let's go into, so we're doing the layering. We've got the scarf, the jacket. Now we're going to talk about sweater dresses, which is kind of something that you see a lot in the fall and the winter. However, the coloring on these is not the bright colors as much. This is more neutrals. So can you explain that a little bit? How neutrals got well, you just talked a little bit about neutrals with the grays and stuff, but let's talk about it in terms of the sweater dresses.
Yeah, that's we again we've been seeing this trend since I think just last year, maybe the year before, or something like that. These midi length knit dresses, and you're seeing them sleeveless, and where you just wear something over them. But I think for most of us, especially our age, and with my flabby arms, I would want the either elbow length or all the way to the wrist length. You have to go carefully with this if you have bulges. Um,
Yes.
Sweater dresses will reveal every bulge. And so I encourage people to look at Suzanne's. We did an interview last year, maybe it was earlier this year, about shapewear.
Yes.
So if you like this trend and you like the look of it, and you don't want to reveal every little bulge, you may want to look into some shapewear. But we're seeing a lot of neutrals, and it's a very elegant look. You could wear them to knee length, but it's a little hipper and a little more fashion forward, and it gives you elongation if you wear them the midi length, especially if you're wearing them with tall boots of some kind underneath them. And now we're starting to see some interesting patterns and colors in stripes. Now, again, if you're broad or if you have large bust, you don't want to go with the horizontal stripes.
Right.
I had a dress like that when I was in my 20s and I weighed a lot more. It was really unflattering.
We all have those pictures. You look back like, what was I thinking exactly? Yeah, I totally get that.
I have a hard time believing you ever looked frumpy in any.
Ah, when I lived in Paris, I had these ballet type shoes. They were pink and I tied them. They were leather and I could tie them up my leg. So, but I would wear them with just like totally the wrong outfit. So I have these pictures of me walking down the street in Paris with these leather tight, strappy things. I don't, oops, let me just decline that. Okay. With like with a leather skirt or something that doesn't match. I mean, it was just terrible. So it's like I loved these shoes, but they went with nothing. So trust me, I've done it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So also we've got florals. We've got dresses that have florals in them. So let's touch on that for a second.
Yeah, I honestly thought this trend had died, but no. They're showing a lot of dark florals for the fall, and some of them incorporating some of the new bright, wonderful colors. You mentioned yellow. I forgot to mention that yellow was one of the new, very unusual colors that we're seeing in the fall, and they're either a really mild butter yellow, which works for people who have sort of brighter coloring. So it's very mild. Or we're seeing this almost leaning toward marigold, orangey yellow. You would look gorgeous in that. And
Interesting. I don't tend to wear yellow. So that's interesting. You brought that up. I'd have to have a look at that. Yeah.
yeah, I think you could do that. Although you have so much warmth, you still have so much warmth in your face. So that might be a little challenge. Anyway, so Yes, which trend are we talking
Oh, we're
about?
talking about floral
Florals,
dresses.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we're seeing the dark florals, and in them they're incorporated some of those brighter colors like the reds and the lilacs, but a lot of blue. And if you like florals, I may have mentioned this before, but most important thing to pay attention with florals is the scale. If you're tall and large, you can wear larger florals. Little tiny florals, if you're tall or large, are a little um, disempowering is the word I might use for that. Um,
Interesting.
but if you have a lot of spirit, even if you're little, you can wear a bigger floral. So it just depends. You want something to sort of match and echo who you are intrinsically, and you kind of get. You know, I really think people need to go with their gut. I always tell people, train your eye, trust your gut, don't obsess. So if you
Yes.
find something that doesn't make sense logically, but you look at it and you feel fabulous, you probably do look fabulous. So go ahead, go wear those pink ballet slippers.
God knows what I was thinking. All right, so let's head into accessories. So, and then with accessories, we're going to start pulling everything together. So, for those of you that watching that just want to know, okay, I've got these things. How do we put them all together with kind of the accessories? Because that's sort of the final for me anyway. I get dressed and then I look at my accessories. So, let's touch on what are the key points for accessories and then putting it together.
Okay, so what's interesting about the accessories this year is that they're toned down. You're not seeing a lot of really big dangly earrings. You're seeing in some of the, the high fashion magazines, you're seeing a couple of really bold pieces that are architectural and, very designerly is the word I would use. But mostly you're seeing simple, classic, higher end looking things. And I think that it all sort of fits in, no matter what you're wearing, even if you're wearing oversized, dramatic looking pieces or florals or knit dresses or going with the more, Chanel type 50s look. All the accessories that I'm seeing seem to go with all of this, which is quite interesting because usually they're sort of specific. So I think I want to start with handbags. You're seeing a lot of very interesting structured handbags, the kind of things that are very Chanel or Louis Vuitton or that kind of thing. And the reality is, you can get those very similar looking, beautiful things for nothing on the Amazon. A lot of them are not leather, they're faux leather, but they're beautifully constructed. A TJ Maxx has great Italian made leather bags for under $70. And they're usually, that when I say structured, I mean they're usually square or oblong shape with a handle, satchel. They may have a shoulder, strap also, but they have, a clasp that closes instead of being sort of floppy and soft, which is what I like.
Yeah.
But they have some gravitas to them, and it works for a dramatic, oversized outfit. It works for jeans and a beautiful white blouse. It works well even with a knit dress. They really work. They're perennial. These are things that would last forever. When somebody buys a Chanel bag, it's very rare that they will sell them. So these are things that will last 40 or 50 years. So if that's far as handbags, you're seeing that. And if you want to bring in some more personal expression, buy them in one of the reds or oranges or, just some color, even lime green, something that just speaks to you. Lime green isn't, they're not showing that this winter. I would save that for the summer. But so that's the thing about handbags. So that's the first thing about accessories that I would mention is we're going a little more classic. And then we get into the shoes.
Oh yeah, let's go shoes because I got to tell you, this makes my skirts fly up. I love Mary Janes. I've got a total Mary Jane addiction, and it's weird, but it must be a past life thing. That's the only way I can explain it. So the fact that Mary Janes are here, and it's not kind of a flatter Mary Jane, not you can do completely flat, slight heel, just makes me super happy. But one of the trends that's back, which I'm not happy about, is pumps, which I'm like, I don't know. Some people love them. I'm not a huge fan. So let's talk about shoes.
Okay, so first about the Mary Janes. Um, you're seeing a lot of them in flats. You will see some of that sort of Mary Jane style in some chunkier heels that you can wear with a more conservative skirt and a little, maybe, one of those button down cardigans. But for the most part, we're seeing them mostly in flats. And when you have a strap over the instep, it's going to shorten the look of your foot. So if you have huge feet, I'm a little person with very big feet. So that would make my feet look smaller. But the other thing is, if the Mary Jane strap is further back toward your ankle, it'll make your legs look short.
Yes.
So you don't want to do that if you have short legs. If you're tall and you have long legs, or if you are wearing a more, um, you know, flare pant, then you can wear a Mary Jane and it won't truncate the look of your legs so much because your leg is already looking longer. They're cute, they're hip, they're extremely comfortable. I mean, that's a great thing about these flats now, is that we're seeing a lot of flats, a lot of ballet flats, but especially the Mary Jane ballet flats. And mostly they're flat and they all look extremely comfortable. Yes, you're seeing some really pointed toes, and that's where you brought in the thing about the heels.
Yeah.
I don't know what inspired this. Maybe it was Melania Trump, but those Milano Blahniks with super high heels and the very pointy toes are back. I think they're back for younger women. I won't get near them. I mean, if your
Me either.
toes are shaped like that, that's great. If not, you're in bunion territory.
Yeah.
So I'm not big in them, but if you do like the look of the pointed toe, which will extend the look of your leg and your foot, um, then they're showing them in slingbacks. There's a lot of really nice slingbacks that are at. You're seeing Mary Jane slingbacks with pointed toes. So there's options for you. You can go with a rounded, flat Mary Jane flats or the pointed toe slingbacks with with a Mary Jane strap or not. But I just think comfort first is the most important thing. If you're not comfortable in your shoes, it doesn't matter what else you're wearing. You're going to look painful. You're not going to look happy, and people can
Right.
sense it.
Well, I agree. And that's why I'm not a big pump person. I am always fearful when I wear pumps because I have weaker ankles. I've broken my ankles a few times, and sprained them, and it's bad. So let's go into the last trend, which is to me hilarious. It's the fuzzy slippers that you wear out of doors. So I think this is hysterical. We just have to finish with this. And I'm like, okay, like maybe if you go to Walmart, I don't know. I just don't get this trend at all. I don't think you do either. So let's just end on that.
I personally don't get it.
Yeah.
You're still seeing a lot of slides. And I think they're kind of moving into forever territory. I know that you like slides, and we saw them in the summer and the spring, which made sense. In the wet weather, I don't understand it, but you'll
Yeah.
see them. They're calling them backless loafers. And so then they're taking it one notch in a weird direction and showing them fuzzy. So I don't know who's going to wear fuzzy slippers. And even if they call them, backless loafers, they're fuzzy slippers.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love wearing mine around the house, but I wouldn't wear them out in public. I think, I think I may have mentioned this to you. I think it's the kind of thing where you're going to see some fashion influencer, like maybe a celebrity, going shopping in Brentwood, California, and running out the door quickly to pick up a loaf of bread, wearing these fuzzy slippers. Some paparazzi is going to take a picture of it. It's going to appear all over TikTok
Right.
and Instagram. And suddenly, a whole demographic of younger people are going to start wearing fuzzy slippers outside. But it makes no sense to me.
No, me either. And especially now we've got some lovely boots, like the up to your knee
Yeah.
boots. I mean, amazing, beautiful shoes that are here. So I'm like, why would we put anyway? I'm not a fan, but yeah. All right. So let's put an outfit together. So maybe you could give me just an idea of someone with their crisp white shirt with maybe a red coat. And I don't know, like maybe put an outfit together so people can kind of put this in their head.
Yeah, I love that idea of if you're going for a neutral wardrobe, and it's a very practical wardrobe, it's a very interchangeable, it'll last forever, but it bores you to death.
Yes.
Get a bright overcoat, you know.
Yes.
So, okay, start with that white blouse or that tan blouse or that gray blouse and wear maybe a tonal. And a tonal means that you're just wearing the same color, but a lighter or darker shade of it. It's a very elegant look. So even if you're wearing a color, you could be wearing like maybe a salmon color shirt with a darker coral sweater underneath it. And then maybe a herringbone blazer or jacket over it. And then if it's really cold, you wear an overcoat over that maybe is either a dark color or maybe even a deeper, rich, if you can find a richer, deeper color than coral. So in other words, you start and I don't want to talk about pattern mixing here because it's very complicated and it takes a really careful eye to do it.
Right.
But I would think in terms of the layering pieces, whether it's a sweater and a leather jacket, and then maybe a big heavy scarf over it, and you can wear that with pants or jeans or a longer skirt. Or if let's say your starting piece is one of those knit dresses, you can wear that with one of those, let's say the knit dress is in a neutral color. And let's say you wear it with a cobalt blue long coat. And then this is, it used to be that you had to match the length of the coat with the dress underneath it. That's another rule that it's not as important anymore. There has to be a proportional length. You don't want to have a really medium level coat that hits at your thigh when you're wearing a longer skirt area. But if your coat is maybe 4 or 5 inches shorter than a midi dress, that's okay. And especially if it's in a really bright color. And then you could add one of those big scarves and carry one of the structured handbags. You could wear that they're showing a lot of over the knee boots. I think they work if you're wearing really short skirts. You're seeing a
Yeah.
lot of younger women doing that. But you could wear knee-high boots. You could wear some of those slingbacks with something like that, and then maybe just one chunky earring, something, or maybe a cocktail ring with it, or something like that, or a nice watch. Watches are big. I didn't talk about that, but watches are always in. But that could be your other fashion piece.
Right.
So the layering idea is that think in terms of each piece adding something of interest to the one underneath it, but making sense in terms of size. You don't want a narrow fitting coat under a really big sweater. If you're wearing a bulky sweater, get a bulkier outer piece, either in a trench coat or, a winter coat. And I think, that'll create a whole look. I think it'll be very fashion forward and it'll be very classic. I think it's going to last a long time. And as trends will come and go, those kind of things are things that will last. And you'll get a sense over time of the pieces that come together for you. It's going to be different from each person. We know that, based on our height, our body shape, our coloring, everything has to work together. And if you have, I just said this, add this piece in, if you have very striking, dramatic coloring, you can really make a big contrast between the color of the outer pieces or the accent pieces and the other ones. If you have more subtle coloring, then you want them all to blend more gently together and create this sort of harmonious, subtle, beautiful thing. If you have deep and rich coloring, then you love those fall colors that work together. Maybe you could wear that marigold with some of the sage and maybe an overcoat in a dark brown. So you get the idea. It's pieces that make sense together and that create a visual sense that goes, oh, yeah, that's beautiful.
Right.
So I think that's kind of I would think about in terms of how to create outfits from this season.
Wonderful. Thank you. That was awesome. Very clear. And we can easily toss in a few pieces. And that's what I love about seasonal dressing is you say, oh, I'm going to go get a red shirt or I'm going to go get this. And automatically, suddenly you've added just this lovely different trends that really work for you. So thank you so much, Andrea, for sharing all of your wisdom about fall 2023.
You're so very welcome.
And ladies, thank you so much for joining us. Please comment down below. We always respond. We love to hear from you. We love your questions. And if you want to see Andrea, please go to shoppingfortherealyou.com. You can also buy her book on Amazon. It is a bestseller, Shopping for the Real You. And then also check out her courses now on her website. Thank you so much for watching The Beauty Shaman.